Daniel had spent weeks planning the grandest night of his life. Inside his late uncle's mansion, flower petals lined the marble floor, golden chandeliers glistened above, and an audience of family and high-profile guests waited in excitement. Daniel was about to propose to Vanessa, his elegant cousin, and everyone believed this proposal would secure the family's fortune for generations. Vanessa sat in the spotlight, glowing in a diamond-studded gown, her smile wide and proud. Daniel, in a tailored tuxedo, dropped to one knee. The music swelled. Cameras clicked. And just as he opened the velvet ring box, the heavy double doors slammed open. Gasps filled the room. Every head turned. And there, in the doorway, stood Amara, Daniel's longtime girlfriend. Her eyes burned with betrayal, and her presence shattered the perfect fairy tale moment. The proposal wasn't ruined yet, but it was about to turn into a nightmare. The crowd froze in silence. Daniel's smile stiffened as though the air had been sucked from his lungs. Vanessa's face twisted in confusion. Who was this woman bold enough to crash her moment? But Amara didn't falter. She walked across the marble floor with a confidence that made even the chandeliers seem dim. Her voice echoed across the room. "Daniel, stop this act right now." Whispers exploded among the guests. Phones were raised. Some knew Amara by face, Daniel's girlfriend of 3 years, the one he promised marriage to. But why was she here, tonight, at his cousin's proposal? Vanessa rose from her seat, trembling with anger. "Who are you to interrupt us?" Amara's answer cut through the air like a blade. "I'm his girlfriend. The one he's been lying to. And if you all think this proposal is about love, you're wrong. It's about this mansion, and what Daniel doesn't want you to know." The crowd erupted into noise. Daniel tried to hush Amara, his face drenched in sweat. But the more he pleaded, the louder she became. 3 years, Amara said, her voice cracking with emotion. 3 years of promises, of building dreams together. And here you are, on your knees for your cousin, acting like I don't exist. Guests gasped. Vanessa's jaw dropped. Betrayal flashed across her face, but anger burned hotter. "You're lying," Vanessa spat. "Daniel loves me. This is just jealousy." But Amara wasn't done. She reached into her bag and pulled out an envelope, papers worn but powerful. "Jealousy? No. This is about the truth Daniel has been hiding. And it's time everyone here knew what's really at stake." Daniel's world was unraveling, but Amara's revelation was just beginning. Amara held the envelope high. "This mansion, this estate, it doesn't belong to Daniel. It doesn't belong to Vanessa. It belongs to me." The ballroom erupted. Guests leapt from their seats, shouting in disbelief. Vanessa staggered backward, her hand clutching her chest. Daniel's knees buckled beneath him. Amara unfolded the papers. "This was my late mother's inheritance. My uncle left everything to her. And when she died, it passed to me." Daniel knew this, but he tried to bury the truth. He thought by marrying Vanessa, he could control it all. The silence after her words was deafening. Then, pandemonium. Guests whispered, some recording every second, others demanding answers. Daniel shook his head violently. "No. She's lying. She's here to ruin me." But then, from the back of the hall, the family lawyer stood up. His voice boomed above the chaos. "She's not lying. I can confirm the documents are authentic. Amara is the rightful heir." The mansion that Daniel was using as a stage for his proposal had just slipped out of his hands. All eyes turned to Vanessa. The woman who had been moments away from wearing Daniel's ring now looked like she was on fire. Her hands trembled, her face twisted, her voice broke into a scream. "No. This isn't happening. This house, this proposal, this future, it was supposed to be ours." She lunged toward Amara, but guests rushed to hold her back. Tears streaked her makeup, smearing the picture-perfect image she had crafted for tonight. And then she turned on Daniel. "You knew. You knew she existed, and you still paraded me in front of everyone like a fool." Daniel tried to reach for her hands, but she slapped him so hard the sound echoed louder than the music. Gasps filled the hall. Cameras captured every second. Vanessa broke down, sobbing into her father's arms, while Daniel stood frozen, humiliated before the world. And in the center of it all stood Amara, calm, unbroken, and holding the keys to the truth. The night wasn't over. It had only just begun. Everyone wanted to know, how did Amara know about the inheritance? The story flashed back. Weeks earlier, Amara had been sorting through her late mother's belongings when she found a sealed envelope. Inside, the will revealed the mansion belonged to her mother, and after her passing, to her. At first, Amara was confused. But as she watched Daniel grow obsessed with proposing to Vanessa, it all made sense. He wasn't chasing love. He was chasing her birthright. Now the world knew, and Daniel's perfect night was collapsing. But Amara wasn't finished. She had receipts. Amara placed the inheritance papers on the banquet table. Gasps filled the hall as guests pushed forward to see the names, the signatures, the legal seals. Daniel lunged for the papers. But Amara pulled back and smirked. "Don't bother. I've already scanned and backed them up." The guests erupted, half in applause, half in chaos. Vanessa screamed, "Lies! All lies!" Then the family lawyer, Mr. Obina, stepped forward. His words silenced the entire ballroom. "These documents are real. The true heir is Amara." Vanessa fell into her chair. Daniel's jaw dropped. The estate he thought he was securing had just slipped out of his hands in front of everyone. Sweat poured down Daniel's face. His mask of confidence cracked. He tried to spin the story. "Amara, you don't understand. I was doing this for us. I was going to share it all with you." The guests laughed bitterly. Some booed. His desperation was pitiful. Amara didn't flinch. "You betrayed me for your cousin. Don't pretend this was ever about love." Vanessa exploded, hurling a wine glass across the floor. "So I was nothing to you? Just your little ticket to the mansion?" The glass shattered. And so did Daniel's last excuse. Daniel thought his family would protect him. He was wrong. Relatives rose to their feet, spitting fury. "Shame on you, Daniel. You used us all." Even his own mother pointed at him, her voice breaking with rage. "You've disgraced this family in front of the whole world." Phones recorded every second. Guests live-streamed the scandal. Within minutes, hashtags about Daniel's betrayal were already trending online. The golden boy who thought he'd secure everything now stood exposed as a liar, a cheater, and a failure. But Vanessa wasn't ready to back down. Her pride was bleeding. She stood, trembling with fury. "You think this is over, Amara? You may have the papers, but I'll never let you take this mansion. Not while I'm alive." The room gasped. Some guests tried to calm her, but Vanessa shoved them aside, pointing at Amara like a madwoman. Amara didn't even raise her voice. She simply replied, "Fight all you want, Vanessa. The law, the bloodline, and the truth are mine. This estate was never yours." The hall fell into stunned silence. Daniel looked broken. Vanessa looked deranged. And Amara stood unshaken, the storm in the middle of their collapse. The war for the mansion had only just begun. The room was still buzzing with shock when Amara's eyes wandered to the tall portraits hanging on the mansion's walls. Faces of past generations, proud, wealthy, untouchable. She remembered being a child, standing in this very hallway, staring up at those same faces, never imagining she was tied to them by blood. As a girl, she had thought of herself as an outsider looking in. She would visit with her mother occasionally, always treated kindly but never as family. She was the guest at Sunday dinners, the outsider who didn't belong. Daniel used to tease her back then, telling her she'd never be good enough for a place like this. At the time, she laughed it off, not realizing the weight of his words. But now, with inheritance papers in her hands, Amara finally saw it clearly. This house wasn't Daniel's. It wasn't Vanessa's. It wasn't the matriarch's. It was hers. Every chandelier, every marble tile, every acre of land surrounding the estate, hers. A lump rose in her throat, but she fought it back. This was not the time for tears. She thought of her mother, a woman who had chosen humility over wealth, who never once used her inheritance to boast. Amara whispered under her breath, "Mama, I'll honor this gift. I'll protect it." But Daniel noticed her pause. He saw the emotion on her face and tried to use it. "Amara, remember the times we dreamed together? Remember when we planned our life in this mansion? I wanted this for us." His voice carried desperation, trying to tug on the strings of nostalgia. Amara turned slowly, her expression unreadable. "For us. Or for you." The crowd stirred. Phones zoomed closer. Guests leaned in. She stepped forward, clutching the papers tighter. "You treated me like I was beneath this family. But it turns out, I'm the only one who ever truly belonged here." Her words hit Daniel like a slap. His face twisted, but he said nothing. And as she stood before the portraits, claiming her place in history, the mansion no longer felt like a cage. It felt like home. But the war wasn't over. Daniel's mother was about to strike back. The entire ballroom went silent when Daniel's mother rose from her seat. She didn't need to shout. Her presence alone demanded obedience. Her emerald green gown shimmered under the chandelier, her sharp eyes cutting through the room like daggers. For years, she had been the quiet force behind the family's wealth, the one who brokered deals in whispers while her husband took the credit. Now, she was furious, and the silence proved it. Her voice was low but firm. "Amara, you walk in here with papers and boldness, but you forget one thing. This is our family home. You may have found a document, but that doesn't make you one of us. You don't carry our name, you don't uphold our traditions, and you certainly don't have the strength to lead this house." Gasps echoed. Some nodded in agreement, others shook their heads. But Amara stood unmoved. The matriarch stepped closer, her heels clicking against the marble. "Be wise, girl. Hand those papers over to me now, and I promise, I'll let you walk away with your dignity intact. Refuse, and you'll regret it." The guests whispered among themselves, tension so thick it was suffocating. Cameras caught every angle, live streams buzzing with comments. "This is crazy. She's threatening her in public. Amara better not fold." Daniel smirked faintly, hoping his mother's intimidation would work where his charm had failed. Vanessa, still shaken, perked up at the thought that Amara might surrender under pressure. But Amara didn't move. Her face was calm, her grip on the papers tight. Slowly, she stepped forward until she was standing almost nose to nose with the matriarch. Her voice was steady, deliberate, cutting through the tension. "With all due respect, I don't need your permission. I don't need your approval. This estate is mine. And the more you try to intimidate me, the clearer it becomes that you're afraid." The crowd gasped louder. Daniel's mother blinked, stunned that anyone, let alone Amara, dared to speak to her that way. "You insolent girl," she hissed. "Do you know who I am?" Amara lifted her chin. "Yes. You're the woman who tried to bury the truth. And now, you're the woman watching everything you thought you controlled slip out of your hands." The ballroom erupted into applause. Cheers thundered as guests clapped, some even standing to support Amara. The matriarch's face twisted with rage, her power crumbling in real time. The ballroom had turned into a war zone of whispers, claps, and outrage. Guests who had once come for champagne and roses now found themselves part of the biggest family scandal of the year. Some huddled in corners, whispering that Amara was a disgrace, an intruder who had no right to interrupt tradition. Others, emboldened by her courage, raised their voices in support. "She's braver than anyone here," shouted one guest, her voice cutting through the noise. "At least she's speaking the truth." Another elder guest, respected for his age and wisdom, stood up with a cane in hand. His voice trembled but carried weight. "I was here when that will was signed. I knew Amara's mother. She was the rightful heir, and this girl," he pointed at Amara with conviction, "has every right to be standing here tonight. If you want to talk about family honor, honor begins with truth." Applause shook the walls. Cameras panned to Daniel, whose face flushed red with shame. He clenched his fists, his jaw tight. Every livestream was capturing his downfall, hashtags exploding online, hashtag estate scandal, hashtag betrayed girlfriend, hashtag heir revealed. Meanwhile, Vanessa trembled in the corner, mascara streaking down her face. But even through her tears, she seethed, glaring daggers at Amara. The humiliation was too much for her fragile pride. The tension thickened when a group of younger cousins began chanting softly, almost like a protest, "Amara! Amara! Amara!" Their voices grew louder, filling the hall. The crowd split, one half chanting Amara's name, the other booing, calling her a thief. Daniel's mother slammed her hand against the table. "Enough!" she roared. "This family will not be torn apart by an outsider." But it was too late. The family was already divided, and the guests had picked their sides. And in the middle of it all, Amara stood calm, watching everything unfold. She wasn't just holding papers anymore. She was holding power. But the louder the support grew, the more Vanessa began to crack. And soon, her meltdown would steal the spotlight. The chants, the applause, the whispers, it was too much for Vanessa. Her body shook as rage boiled over. Finally, she snapped. "Stop!" she screamed, her voice raw, echoing across the grand hall. Every eye turned to her. Her hands trembled, her chest heaved. She looked less like the elegant bride-to-be and more like a broken doll, mascara running in black rivers down her cheeks. "He never loved me," she wailed, pointing a shaking finger at Daniel. You told me I was your future. You told me this night was about love. But it was never about me, was it? It was about this house." Gasps filled the room. Guests turned to Daniel, who froze, guilt written all over his face. He opened his mouth to speak, but Vanessa wasn't done. "You made me believe I was special. You paraded me in front of everyone like a queen, just to humiliate me tonight. I was your pawn. Your ticket to an estate that doesn't even belong to you." Her scream was so piercing that one of the chandeliers rattled above. She collapsed to her knees, sobbing uncontrollably. The crowd was torn. Some pitied her, others sneered at her foolishness. Daniel knelt beside her, reaching out, but she shoved him so hard he stumbled backward. "Don't touch me!" she cried. "You ruined me, Daniel. You ruined everything." Phones zoomed in on her collapse. Live comments poured in online. "She deserves better." "This is heartbreaking." "Plot twist of the year." Amara, though calm, felt a pang of sympathy for her cousin. She had been betrayed too, in her own way. But pity didn't erase the truth. And when Vanessa finally raised her tear-streaked face, her fury was back. "Amara, you think you've won? You think you can humiliate me in front of the whole world? No. This isn't over. You'll regret this. I swear it." The crowd gasped. The tears were gone. Now, Vanessa's rage was weaponized. And Amara knew this wasn't her last outburst. As Vanessa's threats hung in the air, Amara took a deep breath. She knew it was time to take full control of the night. She stepped into the center of the room, her voice calm but sharp enough to cut through the noise. "Daniel, Vanessa, listen carefully. I didn't come here to fight. I came here for the truth. And the truth is simple. This estate is mine. That's not up for debate. But I'm giving you a choice." The crowd leaned in. Phones lifted higher. This was the moment they were waiting for. Amara's gaze locked on Daniel first. "You can respect my inheritance and step aside quietly. If you do, I won't pursue charges. I'll let you leave with whatever dignity you still have." She then turned to Vanessa. "Or, you can keep fighting. You can keep trying to destroy me. But know this, if you push me, I will take you both to court. Every lie, every scheme, every betrayal will be dragged into the light. And when it's over, you won't just lose this mansion, you'll lose everything." A hush fell over the crowd. Her words rang like a death sentence. Daniel's lips trembled. He tried to speak, but nothing came out. Vanessa clenched her fists so tightly her nails dug into her palms, blood pricking through her skin. The guests murmured, buzzing like bees. She gave them a choice. Asterisk if they're smart. Daniel shouted, "Stop clapping! This is still our house." But his words fell flat, drowned out by the roar of the crowd. For the first time, the untouchable matriarch had been defied, and she had lost. But as the guests' cheers echoed, Amara knew this was only the beginning. Daniel wasn't finished. Vanessa wasn't finished. And the storm was just starting. The room sat in tense silence after Amara's ultimatum. Everyone waited for Daniel's answer, but instead, he pulled out his phone. His lips curled into a shaky smile. "You all think Amara's telling the truth," he sneered. "Then explain this." He tapped his screen, and the giant projector behind the stage lit up. Suddenly, a glossy video played, Daniel, kneeling before Vanessa in the same mansion days earlier, professing his undying love. He promised her forever, swore that she was the only woman he wanted to spend his life with. The video ended with the words, "The engagement of the year." Gasps filled the hall. Some clapped, confused. Others frowned. Daniel spread his arms wide. "You see, this was never about money. This was about love. Amara is just bitter, jealous, and desperate to ruin us." For a moment, it almost worked. Whispers turned against Amara. Phones tweeted, "Maybe she lied. He looks so sincere." But Amara didn't flinch. She walked to the screen, her voice calm. "Interesting video, Daniel. But you forgot one thing." She held up her phone and tapped. The video froze on a frame where Daniel's lips mouthed different words than the ones the voiceover claimed. Gasps rippled. "It's fake," she said firmly. He overdubbed his voice. "Look at the lips. He said something else. He manipulated the truth." The family lawyer confirmed, this video was edited. It has no legal weight. The hall erupted again, this time with anger at Daniel's pathetic attempt to deceive them. His desperate card had failed. And now, the audience wasn't just against him, they despised him. The scandal was no longer contained within the mansion. Outside, the media swarmed. Inside, guests updated their live streams. Within minutes, hashtags like #DanielExposed and #AirAmara were trending across platforms. Clips of Vanessa screaming, Daniel sweating, and Amara standing calm in the chaos went viral instantly. The public had picked sides. Amara became an overnight heroine, the betrayed girlfriend who rose from humiliation to claim her rightful throne. Meanwhile, Daniel's reputation crumbled in real time. Businesses he worked with began distancing themselves. Old friends shook their heads, muttering, "He's finished." But what hit hardest was when a group of influential guests, community leaders, pastors, and business moguls, stood up one by one to praise Amara. "You have the strength this family has lacked," one said. "You stood against betrayal and didn't fold," said another. The applause shook the chandelier above them. Daniel's mother barked at the crowd to stop, but nobody listened. The tide had shifted. Amara was no longer just a girlfriend. She was the woman who had exposed lies, defended her bloodline, and won the people. And Daniel, he was sinking fast. The room sat in tense silence after Amara's ultimatum. Everyone waited for Daniel's answer, but instead, he pulled out his phone. His lips curled into a shaky smile. "You all think Amara's telling the truth," he sneered. "Then explain this." He tapped his screen, and the giant projector behind the stage lit up. Suddenly, a glossy video played, Daniel, kneeling before Vanessa in the same mansion days earlier, professing his undying love. He promised her forever, swore that she was the only woman he wanted to spend his life with. The video ended with the words, "The engagement of the year." Gasps filled the hall. Some clapped, confused. Others frowned. Daniel spread his arms wide. "You see, this was never about money. This was about love. Amara is just bitter, jealous, and desperate to ruin us." For a moment, it almost worked. Whispers turned against Amara. Phones tweeted, "Maybe she lied. He looks so sincere." But Amara didn't flinch. She walked to the screen, her voice calm. "Interesting video, Daniel. But you forgot one thing." She held up her phone and tapped. The video froze on a frame where Daniel's lips mouthed different words than the ones the voiceover claimed. Gasps rippled. "It's fake," she said firmly. He overdubbed his voice. "Look at the lips. He said something else. He manipulated the truth." The family lawyer confirmed, this video was edited. It has no legal weight. The hall erupted again, this time with anger at Daniel's pathetic attempt to deceive them. His desperate card had failed. And now, the audience wasn't just against him, they despised him. The scandal was no longer contained within the mansion. Outside, the media swarmed. Inside, guests updated their live streams. Within minutes, hashtags like #DanielExposed and #Aramara were trending across platforms. Clips of Vanessa screaming, Daniel sweating, and Amara standing calm in the chaos went viral instantly. The public had picked sides. Amara became an overnight heroine, the betrayed girlfriend who rose from humiliation to claim her rightful throne. Meanwhile, Daniel's reputation crumbled in real time. Businesses he worked with began distancing themselves. Old friends shook their heads, muttering, "He's finished." But what hit hardest was when a group of influential guests, community leaders, pastors, and business moguls, stood up one by one to praise Amara. "You have the strength this family has lacked," one said. "You stood against betrayal and didn't fold," said another. The applause shook the chandelier above them. Daniel's mother barked at the crowd to stop, but nobody listened. The tide had shifted. Amara was no longer just the girlfriend. She was the woman who had exposed lies, defended her bloodline, and won the people. And Daniel? He was sinking, fast. When Daniel finally regained consciousness, the ballroom had changed. The guests weren't focused on him anymore. They were focused on Amara. She stood at the grand staircase, documents in hand, her voice carrying like a queen addressing her kingdom. "This estate has been tainted by lies, betrayal, and greed. But starting today, that ends. I will not run from my inheritance. I will honor it. And I will rebuild its legacy with truth and integrity." Applause thundered. Guests stood, cheering, chanting her name. Outside, reporters scrambled to broadcast her words live. Across the country, people watched the rise of a woman who had been betrayed but refused to be broken. Vanessa, humiliated beyond repair, was escorted out in tears. Daniel, weak and trembling, sat in silence, realizing he had lost everything. His wealth, his image, his allies, gone. Amara looked at him one last time. Her voice was calm but final. "You could have stood by me. You chose greed instead. Now you'll watch from the shadows as I take my rightful place." She turned and ascended the staircase, the mansion lights illuminating her like a crown. The camera froze on her silhouette, no longer the girlfriend, no longer the outsider. Amara was the queen of the estate. And Daniel, he was nothing.